Hello. A little while back, I had posted a video trying to explain something of why the Anglican Catholic Church exists and something of why we separated from the Church of England and from the Episcopal Church in America. And we got the comment, "Oh, you didn't have to leave." That's an interesting comment because it sort of presupposes a couple of things, I think. One, that it is possible to stay in the Church of England, and secondly, that it is not desirable to be outside the Church of England. So, possibility and desirability. Why did the Anglican Catholic Church leave the Anglican Communion? Well, as I say, we are a church that prides itself, if that's the right word. We try very, very hard to look to the early church for the definitions and for the understandings of the Christian faith, because we believe that the early church is more in tune with our Lord in his incarnation and those wonderful events of the first century. We believe that the early church and all the churches that conform with the early church's teaching have preserved the faith that our Lord Christ instituted. That means that we believe very much that there is a Catholic Church, and that is a Catholic Church as defined by the creeds, but in particular by three sources: by St. Ignatius of Antioch, St. Cyril of Alexandria, and St. Vincent of Lerins. And it's those definitions of Catholicism, it's that same definition in the creed, the one that is said every week, which doesn't change its meaning. We've got to be very clear that we need to be meaning the word Catholic in the way that the first Christians understood the word Catholic. We have to be with them. We can't change the meaning of the word Catholic or let it evolve so that it has a completely different meaning, so that it fits our purposes, that it fits our station. And so that's a bit of a problem when it comes to dealing with the Church of England. When it starts to say, I hear people say, "Oh, I'm Catholic with a small c," and I say, "What does that mean?" Well, I mean, Catholicism means for everyone. It's universal. It's for everyone. And while that is true in a sense, that is not what the word means. And it's being very clear about something that, and St. Vincent, whose feast day was in May, I believe, is very clear about what Catholicism means. And the great canon that he produces, that the Catholic faith is that which is believed by everyone, everywhere, at all times. And he clearly puts that forward as an antidote to those who are trying to say something else. In particular, I think he was writing, if memory serves, just after the Council of Ephesus in 431, where Nestorius had just been revealed to be heretical in his approach to Christianity, to who Christ was. So we hold to that. We hold to those definitions of Catholic. And that means that we can't accept modern definitions. There's no such thing as Catholicism with a small c that means what we want it to mean. Catholicism means something very, 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 very clear, very, 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 very precise. So it's because of that that when the Anglican Communion changed the sacraments, and particularly in the Episcopal Church of America, within the Canadian Church, Anglican Church in Canada, and in the Church of England, you've changed the sacraments. You've then changed what the Church has always believed. And this is in particular with a reference to the priesthood. If you change the matter of the priesthood, then you have changed the priesthood. And if you have changed the priesthood, then you have changed the nature of the sacraments that flow from the priesthood. If you just start with just changing the priesthood, then you have changed what have you changed? You've changed baptism. No, you've not changed baptism, because baptism is something that can be done by anyone, especially in an emergency. But you have changed the Holy Eucharist. You have changed the Sacrament of Confession. You have changed the Extreme Unction. You have changed... you haven't changed marriage as such. If you then go and change the episcopacy, then you've changed ordination and confirmation. So only two of the sacraments are likely to be sort of retained. So we end up with a major change in the covenant, because the sacraments are basically the covenant we have with God. We do what we do. We follow God's instructions. God it gives us the grace that comes through that. It sounds mechanical. I suppose in some sense it is mechanical, but it is something about a promise and about living that promise. It's a living machine, just as our bodies are living machines. So, fingers are meant to bend like that. And that is a mechanism. They do what they're supposed to do. And likewise, the sacraments do what they're supposed to do. They give us the grace. So it's like that. It's when you try to do things to the sacraments. If I chop off a hand and now say write, write with your right, I have to use my other hand, and so I'm not writing properly anymore. So if I change the matter, things just don't work. It's not the same thing. And so when in the 1970s in the United States and in the 1990s here in the UK, when we see that change in the sacraments, we are seeing a change in the church, the nature of the church. It ceases to be the Catholic Church. It becomes very much, I think, what is often described as an ecclesial community. And that's not to say that ecclesial communities are not part of the church, because we can't say that. We know that where the church is, but we can't say where it isn't. But for our part, we have to go where we believe the church is, and that's why we walked away. Now, of course, within the Church of England, and this is where I think that commentator was making reference, there is the Forward in Faith movement, the Society of St Wilfrid and St Hilda. And so they remain in the Church of England, but they subscribe to the male-only priesthood. So they've only got male bishops and male priests, and I think they allow for female deacons. I think they go that far. But so the bishops of the society only consecrate bishops for the society. And you get some very, very strange ordinations. I remember this happening with when they consecrated Bishop Philip North, where this happened at the same time as another ordination. where all the other bishops sort of stepped back and only the society bishops came to lay hands on him. And that sort of put the Forward Faith movement, this society, in a very ambiguous position. And I think from our point of view, because obviously we in the Anglican Catholic Church, we have a great deal of sympathy and affection for members of Forward in Faith in England. I think the problem we found was that there's too much ambiguity. Because if you're saying that we're going to be in the Church of England, and the Church of England has produced these 5 guiding principles, which says that women can be ordained and women can be consecrated. If you say that, then to sort of withhold from that and yet to be with it sends a very unclear signal. Of course, it allows you to remain within the Church of England. It allows priests to draw a salary from the Church of England and to have parishes in the Church of England. What it doesn't do, though, is it doesn't make for that sort of sense of belonging to the Catholic Church. Obviously, if you're in Forward in Faith, you'll say, yes, I do believe it, I am. And that's fine. If that's what you believe, then I hope that your conscience keeps you well informed. You inform your conscience and you keep going. But I think from us in the Anglican Catholic Church, we don't see that same commitment to Catholicism as defined by St. Vincent or St. Ignatius or St. Cyril. But again, as I say, we have an affinity. And while we might be small in this country, we nonetheless have this great deal of sympathy for our Forward in Faith people. And we notice, things we notice photographs, and we often see in Forward in Faith society photographs of ordinations. There'll always be the female Bishop of London, for example, when the Bishop of Fulham ordains, or there will always be some female presence there to sort of make present the 5 guiding principles that the Church of England has made a clear decision that it does recognise the ordained ministry of women. So that ambiguity leads to confusion, and I think that there is coming a time now when we are seeing, at least you sort of see in the Anglican Communion press, you see discussions about rescinding the 5 guiding principles, and that you get the idea that those who have campaigned for the ordination of women have essentially hoped that the society will die out so that they can rescind the principles. They are essentially saying to the congregations, do you know that you don't accept the ordination of women? Do you know that? In the hope that these congregations say, oh no, we didn't know that. We must rescind the resolutions. We must leave the society immediately. And there's always those campaign lobby groups to try and stop the Church of England from having these principles. So if we in the Anglican Catholic Church had remained, we too would be under the same sort of pressure to not exist, essentially. What leaving has done for us, and it has been painful. I used to sing in choirs, and I can't do that anymore. I used to be able to enjoy some fellowship with my companions, my colleagues in the Church of England. And there are even bishops in the Church of England who have called us a dangerous church, that we should be avoided at all costs. Even now, even in our little cathedral in Faversham, there are those from the Church of England who will say that we are horrible people and that we must be shunned. And that is coming from the Church of England. But it has allowed us to sort of see ourselves and to understand what we're doing and what we're for. And that means we now have a clear theology. And I think it is it's better for being clear. And I'm not saying that there aren't ambiguities in life. There are plenty of ambiguities in life. And of course those ambiguities mean, again, that we don't say where the church is not. We can only say where it is. And we seek where the church is. And that has allowed us to be free. It's been allowed us to be free from sort of the shackles of what seems to be quite an imposing amount of bureaucracy. You notice this, for example, that it's the Archbishop of Canterbury resigned in January, and they've only just decided upon not only just decided upon the committee appointed, but also decided what they would need in the new Archbishop. And you contrast that with what's happened in Rome, where in the space of 3 weeks, poor dear Pope Francis passes to God, and in 3 weeks, Pope Leo is now is elected and is already working hard for the Roman Catholic Church. So you see that we too are, I think we have a certain amount, I think we fall, Anglican Catholic Church, as usual, falls between the two stools. I think we are rather more efficient than the Church of England, but not without the sort of, not without the sort of levels of paperwork that come with, that come from our Anglican heritage. But I think there's a point that we have to make, and that is that we still do very much have affection for our brothers and sisters in the Society of St. Wilfrid and St. Hilda. And my prayer for them is that that their existence, that they are allowed to flourish, even when there seems to be a very twisted argument. It's a very twisted argument from their opponents that seems to suggest that they should not be allowed to. My prayer for them is that they find they find their place enshrined, and that they should not feel that they have to keep kowtowing to the major position. But also, likewise, I'd like them to think that they can look to us, although we're quite small, but we have an institution. We have an institution, we have a theology, and that we can engage with each other in many wonderful ways. So, God bless you. God bless you if you're a member of the society. God bless you that you may feel the love of God build you up and keep you safe and keep you committed to the cause that you have. God bless you if you are seeking to find somewhere outside the Church of England in order to follow the Catholic faith. I pray that you may be led to the right places and you may find strength and hope in your search. And God bless you that, as Anglican Catholics all, we may join the whole Church Catholic in worshipping our Divine Master. God bless you, and please pray for me.